Welcome to class, students. Like the past 2 days, we're going to start off with some daily guidance, and I'm gonna read you a couple sentences here, and I want you to think about them, and how they apply to your life. Most fall short in life because they are striving to be the person they want to be instead of the person that God created them to be. Seek His counsel in all that you do, and I promise you will have a very, very fulfilling life. I promise. Seek His counsel. Okay, so over the last 3 days, we've learned about, that's right, the Articles of Confederation and the lost state of Franklin. And in this lesson, we're going to briefly talk about Shays' Rebellion, which was a critical turning point in America's history. But before I get started, let me try to frame this out for you and hopefully bring you back to where we need to be. It's 1786, and we are in the last years of the Articles of Confederation. And if we remember from our previous lessons, we understand that the Articles have some weaknesses, right? We remember those. We need to remember those. Those are some critical aspects that are going to be that you'll see again. And remember federalism, right? And the power of the states versus the federal government, right? And here we go. So here's our power, right? And we're gonna rip it right in half, right down the middle. Just pretend. So we've got equal distribution of power. We have states' rights, and we have federal government's rights, right? Equal. Under the Articles of Confederation, that was drastically different, right? So now let's take this, and we're going to rip off just a little piece here, right? And what do we have? We have the federal government power, and we have the state's power. Drastically different, right? So what did Shays' Rebellion do? It illustrated, along with the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation and the lost state of Franklin, that America needed a stronger central government. So I'm sure you're wondering at this point, who was Daniel Shays, right? And what was or what is Shays' Rebellion? Well, Daniel Shays was a Revolutionary War soldier who rose to the rank of captain and was involved in quite a few things. So we've got the Boston Campaign, we've got the battles of Bunker Hill, Lexington, and Saratoga. And Shays' Rebellion was a name given to a series of those protests that took place between 1786 through 1787. And it was led by some American farmers against state and local enforcement of tax collections and judgments for debt. So back to Daniel Shays. So after being wounded during the war, Daniel Shays returned home to Massachusetts and continued his life as a farmer. But an important note here, he returned home without any money. He hadn't been paid as a soldier. And when he returned home, he had tax bills and notices that he needed to go to court for his land that he owned. And as a farmer, he couldn't exactly pay those bills in food, right? Shays couldn't show up and with a bag of potatoes and be like, here's my money, here's my debt, here's what I owe you. He couldn't show up with corn or wheat or barley or pigs or horses and turn that in as a form of payment. The courts wanted money, and they wanted cash money, not food. And because people couldn't pay, because these farmers couldn't pay, the courts started taking people's homes and farms and kicking them off their land. And what did Daniel Shays do? He began to organize. And in the summer of 1786, the uprising in Massachusetts began, and the rebels began harassing merchants and lawyers and supporters of these state governments. And they also began shutting down these courts and proceedings to stop people from collecting money and taking their farms. And these rebels, they began to move across Massachusetts, and they tried to capture the federal arsenal at Springfield, Massachusetts. But the state militia intervened. The state militia was commanded by Benjamin Lincoln, and he crushed the rebels in several engagements in 1787. Shays and the other principal figures in this rebellion, they fled to Rhode Island, and then they ended up fleeing to Vermont. And although it never seriously threatened the stability of America, Shays' rebellion alarmed politicians throughout the nation. Started raising these flags like, man, we've really got to do something. And proponents of constitutional reform at the national level cited the rebellion as well as, what is it? That's right, the lost state of Franklin, as a justification to revise or replace the Articles of Confederation. And this led to the Constitutional Convention of 1787, which is, that's right, tomorrow's lesson. It's been great. Make sure you look at the last slide because all your homework details are on there. And like always, if you have any questions, you can just give me a call or shoot me an email. Thank you.